Welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so we're doing a Khyber Shards answer, and we are joined today by R.A., player of Esri, printer of things three-dimensional, as we see. All right, so we're talking about recent episodes, which mostly revolve around the fallout of an impromptu heist.
Easily the best episode title yet. Like, I'm very proud of
Dark
you for
and
that
Full
one.
of Errors is delightful. I'm pretty happy with that. Although I have to say, I was pretty happy with Hot Pursuit. Since we ended with everything on fire.
Because fire. Yeah.
Because fire. Yeah. No, I mean it's not as clever, but it made me giggle. So, I don't know, regrets, R.A., for going along with all of this, or?
R.A. doesn't have regrets.
Well, that's good.
No, yeah, Esri certainly does. Esri is, and he expressed a lot of that, in the last episode, that, so this is what I was referring to, I think the last time I was on here, I told everyone, like Esri is going to do this whole togetherness thing wrong. It's going to have bad consequences because he doesn't. He's trying to get it and he's trying to be with it, and he's also not sure how his own ideas and his own thoughts, how do they fit into this, and coupling that with something that's obviously not that's gone different with Pog, and that's also not something he's very equipped to handle. Just like, what, you're having all of these emotions at me, what do I do with that? He's feeling he's back to being confused in a different way. He's confused again, but it's very different this time. And he's at a point where everything is okay. Well, we're doing stuff. Let's try to make the best of it. And in some ways, it feels like he thought that's where the rest of the group was too, and now they've come around to having some of the same problems he was having before, and so a lot of stuff is kind of flipped, maybe, to where he's not necessarily thinking everything is awful anymore, or he is. He's like, okay, well, we decided that it's going to be awful, so now what? And others are having the emotions. So that's where he's at, just trying to as the whole series has been so far, trying to figure out what they are, what exactly are these four people to each other, and that has not been definitively answered yet. Yeah,
no, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about the way that the way you were putting it. The others have kind of come around to Esri's original premise of, oh my gosh, what have we done?
Yeah.
That is interesting. But yeah, it kind of is that they've come around to where Esri was after the mummy encounter. Oh, kitty.
Yeah, she can't stay off the desk. She doesn't learn very well, so she's gonna be annoying.
Yeah. She got razor sharp claws yet?
She did. I've trimmed them. She's got them back. I'm due for a trim again, but she doesn't like to be held still, and she's very, very small. So she doesn't have a lot of strength, but she has a lot of wiggle.
Yeah, you got the kind of boneless thing going on where it's impossible to keep a little animal.
You
still.
cannot hold her upside down. It's like this. She's like a wibble wobble. What are those things called? Like, you can't tip them over. She's just like that. It's like, turn her over and she just has no bottom side.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, we have some questions. to jump into here. Starting with a question that Devious Pop-Tart has for the Khyber Shards players.
How can a Pop-Tart be devious? In what way?
You know what? I'm not sure, and I've never asked him. I probably should. He's in our
maybe
Patreon
it's pretending
game,
to
so
be a
maybe I'll
toaster
ask him
strudel.
tomorrow. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
because that's pretty devious. Because toaster strudels are easily the superior toaster snack. So,
but they might be less devious. They might be more
right. Well, they don't have to be.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, he asks anyway. If your character had a mask, what would it be?
I assume he's referring to a mask such as the Rubble Warren gang.
Yeah.
That's it. Probably blank. Like a like the piece of like curved tree bark.
Mm-hmm.
With just eyes in a mouth hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just something completely anonymous that way.
Cool. And then this more directed, a slightly more meta question. If you could change one character decision up to this point that is not specifically the outcome of a die roll, would you change something, and what?
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting question. We were talking about this the other day. I have one very specific moment. I don't know that it's really mattered, but it's one I've regretted. And it was just a matter of like not having thought through this completely beforehand. And that's when Esri wild shaped into a house cat in order to try to talk to Cal. In retrospect, I think it both doesn't make total sense that he would understand that he could or was able to do that. And it's also not something, and I tried to play this into it because I realized it fairly quickly after doing it that I shouldn't have, that he didn't like it. He's not an animal guy. Well, he's not a mammal guy. I mean, obviously he has his bugs, but he's the plant guy. That's the plant and the fungus guy.
I just pictured Esri wild shaping into a swarm of beetles, like just collapsing out of human shape into a swarm of beetles on the floor.
Yeah, just like scarabs, just the scarab swarm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make, that really doesn't make sense. He wouldn't. I don't think there's even any logical reason where he would have gone, I wonder if I can turn into a cat. Like,
yeah.
Even the way he uses his wild shape feature, or the thing that's given to a Circle of Spores druid, doesn't have anything to do with changing shape. It has to do with controlling things around you. So I doubt that I'll ever choose to wild shape him into something else again. Probably not. I'm probably just gonna play that like it either didn't happen, or at very least that he found it completely distasteful and not at all worth that feeling.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've talked about that several times. Almost immediately afterwards, actually, I think.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, like, it's on your character sheet.
Yeah.
And so you do it, but, like, I'm taking so many liberties with the class. I mean, I'm not breaking any rules, but I am, I'm playing it in a very certain way that a druid isn't written for. A druid's supposed to be part of a circle. It's supposed to be a group teaching you things, and that's not at all how his powers have come about. So, yep, kitten.
Yeah. All right. And here is the question about which Laura has been excited for a while and desperate for you to be on to ask you this. So here we go.
Good news. Today you have the single most requested Khyber Shards answer guest of all time. This guy.
Yeah, there you go. Laura asks, as we know from episode 26, Esri has a beautiful potential romance with Bryn the Map Man. I think he would be called a cartographer. No, I guess he was a cartographer who would make maps.
No, he specifically didn't make maps. Yeah.
The
enthusiast. I don't...
Collector. Cartophile.
Cartophile. Yeah. So I think that's what we came up with.
With Bryn the Map Man. Is Esri going to be pursuing this when things calm down? Will the fans of Bressri be happy together? Will the fans see Bressri happy together? To be honest, Esri needs someone to support him and his need for living a safe and normal life, and I'm sure Bryn would be delighted to fill that role.
1 second.
Pet aggro.
Dog is eating kitten's food. Okay. So, boy, you might just want to stop the episode now, Laura, if you want to maintain your hopes and dreams. No, there was no honesty in that moment. That was a freak out Hail Mary moment. Literally, as he said in this last episode, it was Ari's good at talking himself out of problems. What does he do? He flirts. Try it. It was definitely just like the last thing he could, not last thing, but the most desperate thing he could think of that would work at that time. We robbed this dude and broke his shop. We robbed him of likely his most valuable asset. Even if he didn't know it, it was almost certainly like the most precious thing he had available. And we didn't do it for, well, it's not like we can justify it in any particular way. So no, I don't think Esri's going anywhere near that shop again if he can help it.
Yeah. So returning to the scene of the crime is usually unwise.
Yeah, I mean, we were the last thing he saw before all that happened. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like a completely non-memorable meeting either, right? Like it was weird. It was a weird moment. That's the thing that's going to stick in your mind probably. So, not sorry.
All right. The Bressri fans will just have to live with it.
Yeah, that's an alternate universe. You can own that one.
Eric asks, what has Esri been doing on a regular basis to deal with the mental stress that their recent exploits have caused?
Interesting question. He's definitely been working in the workshop. That's his gathering and tinkering with plants and making stuff from them is his happy place. Mm-hmm. He's fairly okay at it, and he gets to be alone and he gets to engross himself in something that's that you really need to pay attention to because often he's dealing with dangerous things. So yeah, that's his like normal day. That's what he does for. No one bothers him when he's doing that. He makes money doing it. That's all fine. So that would be his go-to.
The zen of crafting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a Breaking Bad situation, right? It's not. Right. He's not under contract or on the hook for doing anything in particular. He gets paid to, keep it up, and so it's actually pretty calm.
Cool. Eric also asks, I'll be interested to know whether you can answer this. What is Esri's favorite fungus or spore?
Boy. Well, we established one on the fly. What was that one called? Something spike.
Oh.
Spike shade or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I forget what it's called.
I do too.
I don't know. No, I definitely. I mean, everything that he's a fan of has magical properties, or at least alchemical properties, and so it's not real. So I don't know. I don't have any. I have not set up a compendium of fake herbs. That's not really my way.
Right. Alas. All right. And then we had a question from Mia. That's more of a general rules question.
Okay.
Mia asks, I feel like this is too embarrassing to ask. Wrong. But, Philip, I suggested that it would be appropriate for a KSA. I did. What does it mean to get a critical success or a critical failure? Why is it important to let the GM know if you've rolled a nat 20? So,
how dare you?
Per the rules, a nat 20, meaning the die shows a 20, only really matters in an attack. Per the rules, if you roll a natural 20 during an attack, you deal an extra die of damage. So if your weapon does a d8 of damage, you roll 2d8 on the attack. There are a couple of class features that can affect. I think the Wild Magic Sorcerer has some effects on rolling natural 20s, and maybe also on natural ones. So there are a few successes like that, a few things like that. But from past editions, and it's a very, very common house rule that I tend to apply narratively, not very much mechanically. When you rolled a natural 20, you succeeded in an extraordinary way. Whatever you were doing, a natural 20 represented that you have succeeded either really easily or really quickly or with great style or something like that. And a natural 1 was the reverse. Not only have you not accomplished what you were trying to do, but something has gone wrong significantly. So we're climbing a wall and you fail your athletics check. It's not just that you get stuck and you didn't make any progress. You have fallen on a natural 1. So that's kind of the idea, and it was a bigger part of older editions, and lots of other games have mechanics kind of like that. Genesis, which we play in Eberron Renewed, has the Triumph and Despair system. But broadly speaking, a natural 20, at that minimum, in my interpretation of the rules, a natural 20 always succeeds, regardless of what the final result would be. If you rolled a natural 20 on a check, you have succeeded, possibly just by blind luck. If you've got a negative, I think Ari has a -1 in perception. So Ari rolling a natural 20 is still technically just a result of 19, but regardless of what the DC is, Ari has succeeded on that perception check because it's a highly unlikely thing, but it's accomplished it. And I tend to be less consistent with natural 1s, because if I don't have something interesting as opposed to merely punishing, I don't like to use it very much, because just using it to make the day worse isn't really fun unless it's going to be particularly interesting. Obviously, episode before last, when Ari rolls a natural 1 on his perception check to try and understand what's going on in the alley, I described a particular interpretation of events, or a particular potential interpretation of events due to that natural 1, and it led to some pretty intense consequences.
Well, Esri's Mark also expanded on the natural 1, right? That's when that happened.
Yes, that's also true. And in the case of Ari's natural 1, mostly I described it and I let Eric decide what he would do with it. In the cases of the places where we've rolled natural 20s or natural 1s in order to expand marks, it's mostly just, this is a narratively interesting moment, something unlikely happened, so let's do something interesting with it. So I would say that rules-wise, it's really only important if the class features call it out, but a very common house rule is that you use those to create something narratively interesting and or spectacular. So that's why it is usually players will announce that they have a natural 20, even at tables that don't do anything on natural 20s outside of combat. You will still usually see players announce that because it's cool, it's exciting. You rolled the highest number on the die.
Yeah, I think that's what I would add is that there's a whole cultural aspect, like a shared cultural aspect to it that goes beyond rules at all. As the D20 is the arbiter of fate in the game, you know, rolling a natural 20, it's the highest whatever you're doing, you say it's the highest possible thing you can get. And so it's to some people who are really superstitious about dice, it's even stronger, but at very least, it's, you know, the dice are smiling upon you, right? They have decided that they want you to succeed. And it's pretty broad in the culture, right? A lot of the brands associated with D&D, Roll20, Critical Role, I'm blanking, but I'm sure there's a Nat 20 brand out there. The 20-sided die with the 20 showing up is the logo for just about everything. So it's like, it's a whole cultural thing. It's a moment to celebrate at the table. I would actually say, because of the way combat happens, natural 20s are probably more often celebrated outside of combat. They're mechanically important inside of combat, but because there's so many rolls happening. Yeah, you know, it's a little less. You don't spend as much time on it, but like you have that role play moment where you're rolling a persuasion check, right, and everything hinges on it. You roll that natural 1 or natural 20, and it's that kind of feeling of fate happening, and it's worth celebrating, even if mechanically it doesn't do anything different.
I'm reading. You saying that made me think of this. I'm reading a rule set right now where the way the dice system works is you roll and you have a target number and you're rolling a d20, but you're trying to roll below the target number.
Okay, yeah.
And so a natural 20 is like the worst thing you can roll.
Worst.
And so that's so contrary to everything, which is just interesting to me.
Yeah, I think you do stuff like that at your own peril. Excuse me, I have to try to move a kitten from behind the computer. You know, it's because it's so baked into the culture. It's like, because even if it's mathematically no different or mathematically superior, like it's just like you said, it's just gonna feel odd. Yeah,
it definitely does. And then Mia also had a question specifically for RA. What inspires you to recap the smash and grab to Ari in the way that Esri did? Especially the part where you shared that you were trying to take the advice of the crew and be more supportive. Was that something was that pre-planned? Was that something you thought ahead of? Or did it come to you in the moment? And in parentheses, I freaking loved it, by the way. Both planned and of the moment. So the way those episodes worked out, the Pog exiting the shop was the end of a recording session, and then the next recording session was actually just wrapped up. I think the last episode was the end of the next recording session. So we did the runaway, and then we did the chase in the woods in the next one. So I was left after a whole session, not just an episode, but like a whole session of, Pog just set off all the alarms right in front of Ari and Shade. So I had a long time to consider how Esri felt about that. Especially since he had been sitting in the alley, having allowed this plan to go forward and just not knowing what Pog was going to do once he was in there, and just like hoping that he was going to exit that store in some way that wasn't obvious. So, yeah, I mean, certainly the choice that he made was based on this outlook that he's gained
we explore this later, but he kind of made the decision like, okay, people don't like it when I say no, and people don't do what I say even when I'm saying yes. So I guess I'm just gonna help here. And to be fair, Pog's entry into the store was actually really clever. Using that as the way he pitched to get in undetected was very clever. It stopped there was really the only problem. It stopped there from how Esri would plan it. From Pog's point of view, it was, okay, I'm in there, I grab it, I go. That's all that's needed. And maybe that's true, but Esri still doesn't want to be detected doing stuff like that. And of course, he knew immediately that this was gonna be blamed on him, mostly. In a situation where he and Pog are together and something bad happens, he knows that he is going to be the one that was expected to keep it from happening, and he didn't. So that's why he framed it in that way. Now, if you mean the delivery was spontaneous. It was an extension of his pent-up anxiety about the whole thing. That was the first moment he was like relaxed enough after what happened to talk about it, and so it's just kind of all spilled out. Let's see. Yeah, so he's feeling like, I guess I covered this before, but he wants to be helpful. He wants to be part of this group. This group is the only people he cares about in a real significant way, and so he's trying to figure out how to be a part of the group in the way the group wants. And it's like I said last time, it's gonna take some pendulum swings before he figures out what that role really is for him.
Cool. And then another meta question here. Shelby asks, what's your perfect day?
Me?
I think you, yes, not Esri.
Oh, boy.
This is a carryover from Eberron Renewed, where Shelby has been asking a lot of, just questions about the players. She had us all describe our perfect house and things like that at one point.
I don't know that I have a perfect day. I have... That's actually really tough. I like food. I like mountains. I like games. So probably a combination of those three. I have days that are combinations of those three. I've made that happen. I like naps. So throwing a nap
Playing
in there is
games
good.
while eating food in a cabin in the mountains after a nap.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've had that day. But I like novel experiences as well. So I think probably everyone that knows me would describe me as something of a homebody, but I also really like to go do interesting things. I don't know. Every day's got its good and bad. I'm just living.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I could go with that. Yeah, games, some interesting location, and food. All of those things are highly desirable. Yeah. You're muted.
Guess why?
Saboteur.
Well, I don't know at what point I got muted. Yeah.
I said my thing about you. I heard you through your whole answer to the question. So.
Okay. Well, whatever I said while I was muted was really important, so I'm not repeating myself.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, that wraps up our questions. So we'll leave it
We
there.
sprinted through this one.
Yeah, we got what did we get? That's right at 30 minutes. That's pretty good.
It's like the shortest one I've ever done.
I was gonna say, yeah, we usually hit 45. But we'll take the win. Since I initially convinced you guys to do these by saying 15 to 20 minutes, and I don't think we've ever even sort of done that. So
That's fine.
yeah. But thank you all for watching. If you are enjoying this, or even if you're not, likes, comments are greatly appreciated and feed the almighty algorithm. We drop new episodes of Khyber Shards on Mondays. New episodes of KSA are on Fridays. And you can find links to all of our social medias in the description down below, including a link to our Discord, where we would be delighted to have you join us for discussion of this and other nerdy topics. In the meantime...
She doesn't like being held down.
Yeah. In the meantime, this has been Khyber Shards, and thanks for rolling with us.